I didn't come to Georgia seeking drama. I came for a second chance. After I finally escaped the chaos of my roommate in Florida, the mental abuse, late-night yelling, slammed doors, I loaded up what little I owned and drove until I found something quieter. Savannah wasn't quiet exactly, but the name felt soft enough to breathe into. I found a small sublet above a dry cleaner and a job that asked no questions, an evening shift at the Burger King on Abercorn Street. Working there was like doing a dance in autopilot. I'd clock in, count the drawer, take orders, mop floors, close up, and disappear into the dark before traffic had even picked up. I became good at being invisible. No phone number given, no questions asked, no friendships made. When they asked where I was from, I said I moved here recently. No details. I didn't need people. I just needed rent paid. For 2 months it stayed routine. Rainy nights, broken ice machines, slow lulls between the lunch and dinner rush. I got to know the regulars, the tired shift workers, couples grabbing a quick meal, parents too exhausted to cook. Nothing made me uneasy. Nothing seemed worth noticing. Until one Tuesday at 8:30 p.m., when I clocked in on a night drenched in rain and leftover humidity. Sheeted water hit the windows, tossed the drive-thru sign like a flag, and made everything inside feel soggy. That's when the brown pickup pulled in. He ordered a single cheeseburger and a Coke. No fries, no upcharge. When he pulled up, I slid open the window and handed him his food. He smiled too long, like he was holding the moment instead of letting it pass. Then he said, "You got the kind of face people remember." Thanks. I tried to be polite. Too polite. I handed him a $5 bill and took the change without looking in his direction. I shut the window and started restocking napkins. 10 minutes later, the truck was back through the drive-thru. Mist heavy in the air, water streaming off the menu board. He said something about too much ice, so I made a fresh drink. I set it in the tray and slapped the window shut before he could linger. "Hey," his voice came over the headset. "You close soon, right? I could wait in the lot. Walk you to your car." This time I hesitated. I said nothing, just gave the tight-lipped smile that usually worked, but he kept talking. "I hope that's okay. Just don't want you walking out alone." I told Devin, the shift lead, half college kid, half incessant smoker. He laughed it off. "Chivalry, Claire. He's probably just being nice." He went back to cleaning the fryer, oblivious to the truck idling just beyond the window. I peered through the blinds. Brown pickup, no headlights, no driver, just stillness. By 9:15 p.m., Devin had left early. I flipped the open sign to closed and wiped counters until my arms ached. My keys were trembling in my pocket. I stepped through the back door, rain-slick bricks scraping my heels as I made a beeline for the lot. I got to my car, metallic gray, just months rented, and slammed the door shut. I pressed lock, and then headlights cut across the wet pavement. The pickup had lunged forward. It blocked my exit. I spilled the key into the ignition. Rain spattered the windshield. Snow or hail, not sure which, but cold. He appeared at the window a second later, calm, collected. He tapped the glass. "You didn't say goodbye," he said. I looked away, fumbled the car into reverse, and felt the back tires slip in the mud. He slammed a fist on the glass, just once. I floored it. Tires squealing across pavement and grass, launched over the curb and kept going. I didn't drive home. I needed light and people. I ended up at a 24-hour Walgreens. I hid in the glow of the pharmacy sign for over an hour, shaking so hard my water cup rattled in the cup holder. I had no one to text, no one who'd answer. Ultimately, I called a domestic violence hotline, not because my abuser was a partner, but because I needed someone to say it mattered. They said it was enough, and for the first time in months, I believed them. I filed a police report 3 days later, gave the license plate that didn't exist, described his truck, even mentioned the first comment. "You got the kind of face people remember." The officer nodded, took my words, but never sounded like he believed me. That was okay, I didn't need him to feel. I just needed a record. I transferred to a Burger King across town days later. Moved my route. changed my parking location, bought a retractable pepper spray I kept hanging from my keys. I refused to drive out at night with my windows tinted. I began checking my rear view and side mirrors obsessively. On my first shift in the new location, I wiped my station clean, trying not to let paranoia slip into my smile. The new store was nicer, clean tile floors, working ice machine, full dining room. I kept a low profile, head down. And for the first few weeks, no strange men, no empty headlights, nothing mirrored my experience on Abercorn. One night, nearly a month later, I clocked out early. Cup of coffee in hand, I dared hope I might forget some of that fear. I pulled onto the main road and steered toward home, but then there it was. Brown pickup truck, taillights on, idling at the stoplight ahead of me. I froze behind the wheel. My heart tried to leap into my throat and run out through my ears. I waited for it to turn green. It didn't. Then it did, except the truck didn't move. So I turned into a side street to avoid it. I checked my visor mirror, it was still there. I pulled into a different parking lot, sat in the car for 20 minutes, then drove in circles at 1 a.m. until I convinced myself he'd gone. I never called the police again. I started seeing signs around town. Reports of someone matching his description near McDonald's, Taco Bell, IHOP. Always after hours, always hanging back. License plate that traced to a different state. No charges, no arrests. That summer, the police leaked a caution for restaurant workers. But there was no picture, no details. One of those, "Don't let strangers approach your vehicle" flyers tucked in the corners. It didn't feel enough. Once I found a flyer slid under my windshield wiper at night. Just a printout of a pickup truck and "Look Out" in all caps. No number, no details. Just the truck. A co-worker, new to fast food service, asked me once if I was okay. I brushed her question away. But by the time I clocked out, she called me. Said, "That guy followed me in my car last night. Pulled up behind me in the Taco Bell strip. Then he just pulled in beside me, circle and..." You know what he said? I didn't wait for the answer. He said, "You didn't say bye." She hung up. I nearly threw my phone against the steering wheel. I kept working nights. I kept carrying pepper spray. I learned the way he looked, how harmless he seemed until the moment he wasn't. I carried suspicion. I developed routines, flashlight in hand if I got to the car after midnight, quick rounds through the lot before sleeping at night. Then, one muggy July night, I dropped off some things at a friend's. I got back in my car after sunset and noticed a man slumped inside the brown pickup parked 2 cars away. Interior lights off, but the engine was running. My blood froze again. I ducked back into my friend's porch and called the hotline. I sat there sequentially calling 911 and sending them screenshots of him from my phone. I stayed under the porch lights until an ambulance and cop car appeared. They found nothing. No plates, no ID. Truck was empty. They said he'd vanished. But I felt alive. Autumn rolled in and I hit my 2-year mark at the Burger King chain. I'd started to think maybe I could breathe someday without waiting for dread. I got my own apartment. A 1-bedroom with electric windows, a doorbell that buzzed when someone came. The smallest things felt like armor. That night, a car pulled into the lot just before I left for my closing shift. My stomach dropped for a minute before I reminded myself to breathe. I watched as they parked, door opened, hood of a jacket flared out. I opened the lobby door steadily, walked through my station and clocked out. I didn't turn until I was halfway across the parking lot. I kept walking until I was in my car and locked inside. I checked the rearview mirror. Empty. My breath hitched. I drove off. I've never seen him again. Every feeling of dread you ignore can be the whisper of a danger that won't just go away. Staying safe isn't paranoia, it's preparation. If something feels wrong, act on it. Your instincts are there for a reason, and if you ever wonder whether it matters, whether you'd be overreacting, remember, you are worth more than feeling safe. Long before any of this started, before the shift changes, before Jake disappeared, before I started checking the security mirror every night. I just needed somewhere quiet to start over. Oceanside felt like a good place for that. It wasn't glamorous, but it had enough sun and salt in the air to scrub out the parts of me that still ached from the breakup. I was 24, sleeping on a futon in my aunt's spare room, with 2 duffel bags and a heart that still flinched at the sight of my ex's hoodie. I didn't have a plan, but I needed a paycheck, so I applied at the Burger King across from the surf shop. It was walking distance from the house, and always hiring. No resume needed. Just a pulse and willingness to fry potatoes until midnight. The first few weeks were a blur of grease, short tempers, and customers who thought extra ranch meant I owed them my soul. I kept my head down, took the late shifts, and tried to stay invisible. Then Jake got hired. He was a couple years older than me, tan from the beach, all slouched shoulders and easy smiles. Showed up late to his interview in board shorts and a hoodie that probably still smelled like beer, but somehow still walked out with the job. He worked night shifts with me, flipping burgers and calling me California, even though I was technically from Arizona. We got close fast, not in the way that makes fireworks explode or hearts race, more like 2 tired people finding comfort in each other's silence. He'd wait with me in the lot after close. We'd sit in his beat-up Camry, windows cracked, listening to the ocean slap the rocks just past the highway. One night he said, "We should quit. Open a smoothie shack or something. You'd run the place, and I'd be the hot surfer guy selling acai bowls." I laughed harder than I had in months. But this isn't a love story, at least not that kind. Because while I was learning to breathe again, someone else was already watching. It took me a while to notice Ryan. He was already working there when I started, always early, always quiet. The kind of guy who stocked everything twice and didn't complain when the fryer filter exploded at shift change. At first, he just faded into the background. But then the overlaps started. My break schedules kept changing. Never in my favor, always to match his. At first I brushed it off as coincidence. Then, twice in 1 week, my locker jammed. Both times Ryan appeared like clockwork with a paperclip and a weird smile. "Need a hand?" I said thanks. I meant it the first time. The second time my skin crawled. Once I left my apron in the back room and came back to find it neatly folded. A muffin sat next to it wrapped in a napkin. No note, just a lemon poppy seed baked so perfectly it looked store-bought. I didn't eat it. Something about it felt rehearsed. Jake thought it was funny. "Maybe the guy just likes you," he said, biting into a stale cookie. "Or maybe you've got muffin karma. Or maybe he's the kind of guy who knows exactly when someone's alone," I muttered. Jake raised an eyebrow but didn't push it. That was the thing about Jake, he never made me explain myself, just sat beside me when things felt off. Then one night, Jake didn't show up. 3 days passed. No calls, no texts. His phone rang once, then straight to voicemail after that. I figured it was car trouble, or maybe he finally followed through on that joke about disappearing into Baja. But after 5 days, I drove to his place. It was a saggy beach house he shared with 2 other guys who were rarely home. His car was parked outside, windows fogged, and a stack of unopened mail clung to the screen door. I knocked. Nothing. The next day, the manager at work said Jake quit. Just like that. No notice, no call. "It happens," she said with a shrug. "People bail." But Jake wouldn't just bail. Not like that. Not without grabbing his hoodie from the lost and found. Not without saying goodbye. A week later, a postcard showed up. No stamp, no envelope. Just slid under the kitchen door sometime between the dinner rush and closing. The front was a washed-out picture of some random coastline. The back said, in careful handwriting, "Sometimes, people don't know what's good for them, so I help." No name, no return address. I showed it to my manager. She frowned, said it was probably a prank, and tossed it in the trash. I fished it out when she wasn't looking. That night, I walked to my car with my keys clenched like a weapon. I didn't see anyone. But when I unlocked the door, I found a smear of wet sand on the driver's side window. My car had been parked under the streetlight, on pavement. No reason for sand, except the beach was only 2 blocks away. I stopped sleeping well after that. Ryan still came to work every day, cheerful now, not the awkward, quiet guy anymore. His eyes met mine more often. He started saying things that didn't sound quite like jokes. "Funny how people just disappear," he said once as we refilled the soda station. I didn't answer. You never know who's paying attention, right? Another time he offered me a muffin again. Banana nut this time. I told him I wasn't hungry. He smiled. "You used to smile more, you know. You seemed happier. Before." Before what? I stopped parking in the back, started locking my car the second I got in, started glancing over my shoulder in the freezer, in the supply closet, in the lot across the street where shadows bled into the motel neon. I reported the postcard to the police. They filed a note. But Jake didn't have close family. No one filed a missing persons report. No one pushed. So I did. I tried. But it didn't go anywhere. I still don't know what happened to him. And every now and then, when the night is quiet and the AC hums just right, I swear I hear Jake's laugh from the back alley. It's been almost 6 months since he disappeared. Ryan still works the morning shift, still bakes muffins sometimes, still tries to say my name like it's a secret we're sharing. I stopped talking to him. I keep my phone on me at all times. I check my car tires every night. But sometimes I find sand on the hood again. Just a little. Enough to remind me. He never asked me out. Never touched me, just waited. And once, after close, when the store was quiet and the soda machines were humming, he passed by me and said, "I knew you'd end up here, eventually." Monsters don't always lurk in forests or abandoned buildings. Sometimes they fold your apron. Sometimes they bring you muffins. Sometimes they smile when someone else disappears. Trust what you feel. Listen to the tension in your chest, not just the words people say. The scariest people are the ones who never cross the line, but stand just close enough to watch you trip over it. They say the weirdest stuff happens on the most normal days. You wake up, hit your routine, punch the clock, and something shifts. Small at first. Barely noticeable. Like a breath caught in the room. Then you start to feel it in your chest. Something's off. You just don't know how deep the wrongness goes until it's too late to step back. My name's Damien. I was 19 back then, working the back line at a Burger King off Slide Road in Lubbock, Texas. Just one of those stores squeezed between a pawn shop and a dead strip mall where half the neon signs still flicker, even though the stores have been closed for years. I worked evenings mostly, the 4:30 to 11:30 shift. Predictable. The kind of work that didn't require much thinking. You show up, drop fries, flip patties, and clean the grease traps when it's slow. I was saving for community college, trying to get my general eds done cheap. Rent wasn't a problem. I still lived with my dad, who was half deaf and always asleep by 8:00. We didn't talk much. No bad blood or anything. Just the kind of quiet that settles when you've both been through enough to keep to your lanes. Mariah had started working there 2 weeks earlier. She was 22, transferred in from a Burger King on the other side of town. Sharp-tongued, serious eyes, always kept her pepper spray on her keys. We weren't close, but we worked in sync. It was the kind of friendship that builds in silence. Nods, eye rolls when customers were awful, the occasional exchange of dry jokes over the fryer. That night, it was spring, but still chilly. A soft wind pushing dust across the lot. Around 7:20 p.m., things had started to slow down. The dinner rush was behind us, and Mariah nudged me while I was salting fries. "You trust that ice cream guy out there?" she asked. I glanced through the drive-thru window. Parked just past the edge of the lot under a broken streetlight was this faded yellow ice cream truck. Rust crawling up the sides, one cracked brake light, and a slanted chalkboard sign leaning against the window. "He's been there every night this week," she said. "Just sits there, doesn't play any music, doesn't even move." I shrugged. Never seen anyone buy from him. Same. Want to try it? My treat. Normally I'd say no. But something about the way she asked, like she was testing her own curiosity, made me nod. Mark, the night manager, didn't care what we did on break. As long as we were back before a customer complained, we could take 10. We stepped out the side door and crossed the lot. Up close, the truck looked worse. Dull paint, wheels black with grime. The guy inside had a hoodie on, face mostly shadowed, wiry gray stubble on his chin. He didn't say a word, just pointed to the board. Vanilla swirl, strawberry push pop, something called Blue Moon, written in shaky block letters. Mariah ordered vanilla. The man moved slow, like every motion took effort. He handed over a paper cup of swirl with a wooden spoon. No smile, no have a nice day. Just stared. We turned to walk, but then he reached out and gripped her wrist. Not hard, not yanking, but wrong. Like he wasn't touching her so much as marking her. "You shouldn't waste your looks in that grease box," he said, voice like gravel washed with syrup. Mariah stiffened. She didn't speak. I stepped in between them. "Let her go," I said. The man looked at me. No blink. Just that blank stare, then a smile. Crooked, almost amused. "No one likes nosy boys," he said, and released her. We walked back fast. Mariah tossed the cup in the trash before we hit the back door. "Screw that," she muttered. We didn't tell Mark. It was too weird to explain, and honestly, we didn't know how scared we should be. Not yet. The weird energy didn't leave. If anything, it settled into the store like smoke, invisible but thick. You could feel it. I tried to brush it off as just nerves, but even the buzz of the fryer felt more jagged. At 8:10, a man at the counter started yelling about a mobile order he said he placed, claiming Mariah had rung him up. Only she hadn't. I was on register before break. She never touched it. The guy insisted, said she smiled weird when she took his payment. "She's the one with the sharp nose and attitude, right?" he said loud enough for the whole store to hear. Mariah froze, her face drained. "I didn't take his order," she said to Mark, who looked half asleep as usual. The man knocked over a napkin stand before storming out. Mark didn't even bother writing it up. "People are nuts," he said, walking back to the office. By 9:30, things were slow. I took the trash out to the side lot. There's an alley that runs between the restaurant and the pawn shop next door. I was halfway to the dumpster when I saw him. The ice cream man. He wasn't in the truck. He was standing next to the dumpster, smoking, staring into the bin like he'd lost something. His hoodie was pulled up, hands deep in his pockets. I froze, bags in hand. Didn't say anything, didn't move for a few seconds. I just backed away and went around the long way. I told myself maybe he was just a guy killing time. But who hangs out behind a Burger King at night without speaking? Mariah was wiping tables in the front. I didn't say anything to her either. No reason to scare her more. At 10:15, she came out of the restroom looking pale. "My bag's been opened," she said. "I think my keys are gone." I asked if she dropped them earlier, but she shook her head. Her backpack had been zipped when we went outside. She kept her keys on a ring clipped to the inside pocket. "He was standing by the bins again," she added. "I'm not going back out there." Mark looked over from the mop sink. "Could be anyone," he said. "You sure you didn't just drop them?" We searched the break room, the front counter, even the storage shelf where she hung her bag. Nothing. Mark promised to check the cameras in the morning, but his voice didn't inspire confidence. He sounded like a guy who said whatever got him back to his chair faster. We didn't finish the usual closing checklist. Wiped down the bare minimum. Cleaned just enough. Something in the air made it hard to stay still for long. By 11:30, the doors were locked. Only employees left. Mariah and I walked out together, moving quickly across the empty lot. Her steps were clipped and fast. Mine matched hers. I kept my keys tight in my hand. The ice cream truck was still there. Lights off. No engine. No one inside that we could see. But it sat there, like a question that didn't want to be answered. She stopped at her car first. Then she froze. "Do you see that?" she asked, her voice just above a whisper. On her windshield, right above the wiper blade, was a single wrapped popsicle. No note, no price sticker, just a flat, green plastic wrapper with no writing. I pulled out my phone and called the cops. They showed up 20 minutes later. 2 officers. One older, one looked fresh out of academy training. I gave them the rundown. They took it seriously at first, until they turned to look, and the truck was gone. No engine noise, no lights, no sound of wheels on gravel. Just gone. No tire marks either. The dust on the far side of the lot hadn't been disturbed. It was like the truck had vanished. Not driven off. Disappeared. Mariah filed a report. I gave my version. The younger cop wrote everything down. The older one just nodded, like he'd heard stranger things and didn't have time to care. "All right," he said. "We'll keep an eye out." That was it. Mariah didn't come in the next night. Said she was staying with a cousin in Amarillo for a while. I didn't blame her. Mark checked the security footage the next day. Everything before 9 was fine, but right after that, static. The feed just cut to black and stayed that way until morning. "Must be a glitch," he said, scratching his chin. "Weird timing, though." No one followed up. No detective. No patrols. Just a small-town shrug and another shift. I kept working. We were short-staffed and I needed the money. But I stopped taking breaks outside. I stayed near exits, and I started walking coworkers to their cars. The truck didn't show up for a week. Then one Tuesday night I saw it again. Far down Slide Road, past the pawn shop and the Walgreens. Parked just under a busted billboard. No lights. Just waiting. I didn't tell anyone. I still saw Mariah's empty locker every shift. Still remembered her pale face when she found her keys missing. And every time I passed the alley, I felt that same wrongness in my chest. Like the air itself knew what we'd seen, and didn't want us to talk about it. That was over a year ago. Mariah never came back. I hear she's doing okay. New job, new city. She messaged me once. "Still think about that night. Hope you're staying safe." That was all. I still work nights at that Burger King. Haven't seen the ice cream truck in months, but some part of me expects it, like it's still out there. Somewhere. And some nights, just before close, I look down the road. If the streetlight's flickering and the wind's just right, I swear I can hear the faint hum of a freezer engine, one that shouldn't still be running. I don't walk alone to my car anymore, and I never take popsicles from strangers. When something feels wrong, even if it's small or strange or can't be fully explained, listen, because danger doesn't always knock loudly. Sometimes it just parks nearby and waits for you to come closer. People don't talk about what happens after you screw up. Not just the big screw-ups, the ones that get your face in the system, but the little ones that come after. The ones that happen when you're trying to make things right, but the world already decided you're not worth the shot. I was 27, with a record that didn't match the man I was trying to be. 1 DUI, 1 bar fight, and a 6-month probation was all it took to erase years of clean time, honest jobs, and the letters of recommendation that never got read. My mom went to jail for possession last spring. That left me and my little brother Jamie with 2 options, sink or swim. I chose to swim, even if it meant mopping tile floors at 6 a.m. for people who called me boss man like it was a joke. The Burger King on Court Street wasn't glamorous. Peoria's early morning crowd mostly meant construction workers, hungover third-shift guys, and the occasional nurse grabbing a croissant-wich on her way to St. Francis. But it was steady work. I was full-time, team lead on paper. That meant I kept the grill running, counted cash drawers, and answered to a manager who didn't know what half the buttons on the fryer did. Her name was Amanda, and she talked like she ran a Fortune 500 company, even though she got the job because her cousin worked for the district supervisor. Still, I showed up, clocked in on time, picked up extra shifts, covered for kids who wanted prom weekends and smoke breaks. I didn't drink, didn't use, kept my PO happy. And most important, kept Jamie fed, dressed, and in school. Then the fryer fire happened. It was just after the breakfast rush. I was checking the drive-thru headset volume when someone yelled, "Smoke!" I turned and saw thick gray clouds curling out from under the fryer like a damn fog machine. Grease fire. I killed the power and pulled the extinguisher while Tanya, our best morning crew girl, dragged the trash bin out of the way. We had it out in under 2 minutes. Nobody hurt. Fire didn't spread, but when corporate showed up, they weren't interested in the facts. They saw scorched drywall and wrote up a negligence report. Amanda signed off on it without blinking, even though I'd submitted the maintenance request for that busted plug last week. I had the paper trail. She didn't care. "You're still on probation," she said in her office. "This isn't a good look." I swallowed my pride, told her I'd be more careful. I couldn't afford to argue, but that was the start. After that, everything just kept piling on. A few days later, a customer slipped in the lobby. Soda spill near the drink fountain. I was on grill that morning. Hadn't even been in the front of house since we opened, but Amanda called me over anyway. "Write the incident report," she said, not looking up from her clipboard. "Shouldn't it be the person on lobby?" She sighed. "It's just easier if it's your name. You've got a file already." That stung, but I did it. Again. No argument. I figured if I kept my head down, it would pass. The universe doesn't keep score, but I still tried to do the right thing. Then we hired Deshaun. He was maybe 17, talked fast, laughed louder, showed up late every other day and always had a story. His cousin's car, his sister's kid. I thought I was off today. He flirted with girls up front, touched their elbows, stood too close. A couple times I caught him behind the counter on his phone during lunch rush, FaceTiming somebody while Tanya was drowning in orders. I pulled him aside in the back cooler one day. "Look, man," I said, voice low. "You're making it harder for everyone. This ain't playtime. Show up, do the job, and quit the clown routine." He grinned, chewing gum. "You mad 'cause you old?" I shook my head. "I'm mad because I gotta clean up after you. Don't make me your babysitter." Next morning, my phone was gone. I kept it locked in the office drawer during shifts. That day it vanished between my smoke break and lunch. No signs of forced entry, no broken lock. Just gone. Inside were photos of Jamie's last birthday, my bank apps, everything. I reported it. Amanda didn't even blink. No proof. Could have been anyone. "I lock it every shift," she shrugged. "You can't accuse someone without evidence. I'm not HR." I knew who it was. Deshaun had been in and out of the office that day, but like she said, no proof. Jamie got suspended later that week. He'd punched a kid for calling our mom a crackhead. I had to leave mid-shift to meet the principal. Amanda's only comment? "You're not reliable. I'm trying to help, but you keep disappearing." Help? She was stacking bricks on my back and calling it support. The final straw came on a rainy Tuesday. Phone rang during the post-breakfast lull. I was prepping the back line when Amanda waved me over. "Guy said you cussed him out in drive-thru," she said, holding the phone. I blinked. "What guy?" "Didn't leave a name. Said you called him a dumbass through the headset." "Come on, you really think I'd do that?" She folded her arms. "You've been under stress lately, I get it." I leaned forward. "Check the camera. You'll see it wasn't me." She didn't. Said the file corrupted during the last upload. Said, "It's not worth fighting over one complaint." Said, "Maybe this just isn't working out." I stood there, heart pounding. Not angry, not sad, just tired. Too tired to fight for a job that never fought for me. "You're terminating me?" I asked, flat. She gave me the paper, signed and dated. Effective immediately. So I clocked out, didn't yell, didn't slam the door or curse the world. I walked across the street to the liquor store, bought a Coke, and sat in the back of my busted Toyota. Amanda stood near the counter, barking at Tanya. Deshaun laughed at something like it was the best joke he'd ever heard. I sipped the Coke warm from the bottle, watched the raindrops smear the windshield, watched everything I'd built over the last year dissolve like sugar in black coffee. I sat there for nearly an hour. Didn't drink, didn't text anyone, just sat and breathed, counting every slow beat in my chest. My brother would be out of school in 2 hours. I'd have to explain why there wouldn't be a paycheck next Friday. Tell him we might be late on rent. Again. There's a certain kind of silence that settles when you've done everything right and it still isn't enough. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just silence. You start to realize some places, some people aren't broken by accident. They're designed to wear you down. They don't care about effort, they care about blame. And it's always easier to blame the guy who already fell once. I thought about calling my PO, telling him the job was gone, asking what came next. But I didn't want to hear the pity in his voice. So I drove home. The hallway light was out again. Mail on the floor. Jamie's sneakers by the door, still caked in dried mud from gym class. He looked up from the couch when I walked in. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "You want something to eat?" "Yeah," I said. "Yeah, I do." He got up and started the microwave. That's all it was. A moment. A tiny kindness after a day full of quiet cruelty. 2 weeks passed. I picked up odd shifts at a buddy's moving company. Nothing steady, but enough to keep the lights on. Jamie started helping out more. Cleaned the kitchen, stayed out of trouble, asked less about Mom. Sometimes I still drive past that Burger King on Court Street. It looks the same. Same flickering sign. Same grease stains on the awning. But now I see it clearer. Not as a job that saved me, but as a place built to squeeze the life out of people trying to start over. Amanda's still there. Tanya quit. I heard Deshaun got promoted. Life doesn't always reward effort. That's the hard truth. Some systems only recognize what they can punish. But I didn't fall back, didn't drink, didn't lash out. I'm still here. Because even if the world doesn't hand out fairness, you don't have to stop being fair to yourself. Doing the right thing doesn't always lead to reward, but staying true to your values even when no one's watching builds something deeper. Resilience, self-respect, and the kind of strength no job can take from you. I used to believe that escape meant freedom. When I left Derek, I thought Spokane's outskirts would feel like safety. The cheap apartment, evening shifts at Burger King, and the constant hum of fryers would be enough to drown out fear. Instead, it all became background noise. Fries, faded linoleum, and the same rhythm of life I'd sworn I'd fled. Mason was 6, bright and curious. My world revolved around him, picking him up from school, helping with homework after closing time, and tucking him into bed before heading back to the restaurant or washing dishes until midnight. I didn't have time to unpack what we'd left behind. Exhaustion silenced the pain. Ken moved in next door shortly after I arrived. Retired mechanic, soda can in hand, porch light on as the rest of the complex darkened. He was polite, maybe overly so. He asked about my day, watched me carry groceries, held the door until I'd unlocked it. I said thank you. I let my guard down because I felt safe. I wanted to believe we were safe. That changed when Mason mentioned candy. He told me Mr. Ken gave him candy after school, even though I'd left him in the cafeteria. I asked questions I didn't want answers to. Ken's responses were casual. "For being such a big boy," he said, as if that explained everything. I tightened our routine. Homework, kitchen table, bedtime. I pulled the curtains shut early. I nudged open windows to check locks. The complex felt smaller and still less safe. Then Derek called. I thought that chapter would stay closed forever. But his voice came through one afternoon while I was cleaning the lobby. He said he missed Mason, called me toxic, said I was keeping him from his son. My chest went hollow. I blocked him. But hours later, I got a call from the school. Mason didn't make it to the pickup line. They released him to someone on my emergency contact list, Ken, with my signature, forged. Fear exploded. I called the police. They said, "Are you sure Derek didn't pick him up? Maybe it's a misunderstanding." Their questions felt like demands for proof instead of compassion. I ran to Ken's door and banged on it until my fist stung, but he didn't answer. I asked a neighbor for a ladder to peek in. Blinds drawn, no movement. I collapsed against the wall when police finally forced entry. His school bag lay in the hallway, but no Mason, no Ken, nothing but silence and fear. I called every number I knew, teller lines, babysitters, work colleagues, but every minute Mason wasn't home felt like a burning line being traced across my heart. That night, the police issued an Amber Alert. News crews showed up at my door. The complex swarmed with cameras and lights. I curled up on my balcony wrapped in Mason's jacket to try and keep the cold and panic from spreading. That was when I got the call from a blocked number. It was Derek. Cold, calm, certain. "I told you I'd get him back," he said. "You can't raise a boy on fries and broken promises." Click. Every diner phrase I'd learned at Burger King amplified in my mind. Fries weren't magical. Burgers didn't fix a broken man. And there I was, working fry station to pay bills, while the father used school forms and forgery to steal our son. I went home at dawn. Mason wasn't there. I kissed his empty pillow. I scrubbed the fridge. Wrote myself into exhaustion I didn't have. He was found just before sunset the next day, at a rundown motel on the highway. Shaking, cold, tears and dirt lining his face. He whispered things like, "Mom, he said I don't have to come back unless..." The witness recognized Derek from alerts. They'd planned it together. Ken was arrested on kidnapping charges. Derek was found 2 states away and taken into custody. But Mason wouldn't sleep for weeks. The shadows in his bedroom told him stories. He asked why monsters lived next door. I didn't answer. I just held him, drew heart shapes on his sandwiches, and told him we'd keep moving until I could make monsters invisible again. The next day I quit Burger King. I found work at a security desk at the public library, fewer fry smells, fewer nights alone. Instead, I scanned IDs and watched cameras thinking, I'll watch every door. We moved again, a little farther from Spokane. Mason's laughter comes more easily now. I sleep with the light on. I bought blackout curtains. But sometimes at night, I wake up to a knock that sounds like broken glass. A voice too calm to be safe reminding me of Derek's whisper. I tell friends I learned to trust again. I tell Mason we're okay, but I know better. Some lessons cost more than money, more than sleep. Some monsters don't live under beds. They live behind carnations in apartment complexes. They ask about boys, smile when they answer, and leave darkness in their wake. True safety isn't found in walls or schedules. It's built by trusting your instincts, protecting the small and innocent, and doing whatever it takes to keep love stronger than fear. Monsters may appear friendly, but protecting your family means believing what your gut tells you, even before the warning signs turn into alarms. I've spent most of my adult life being 2 people at once. The woman people ignore, and the woman who keeps everything from falling apart. My name's Lacey. I'm 41, single, and I live in a run-down duplex in South Memphis with my younger brother. He's disabled, cerebral palsy, seizure disorder, and I've been taking care of him ever since our mama passed 5 years back. She used to say I was born responsible. I guess that's true. I work 2 jobs. Daytimes at Burger King on 3rd Street, nights doing janitorial work in a downtown office building. I've been holding it all together with tape and prayer for as long as I can remember. This is the story of the summer it all came undone, and the strange kind of peace that followed. The air conditioning at the 3rd Street Burger King had been busted on and off since May, and by late June the store felt like a deep fryer. The smell of grease never left you. It clung to your pores, your teeth, even your hair after a shower. The managers like to say the job was easy, but that's only if you were 19, pretty, and didn't mind letting customers flirt with you for extra napkins. Me? I just worked. My manager Cheryl made no secret of who she liked and who she didn't. I was never on the right side of that equation. Too quiet, too slow, too tired. I cleaned up the fryer after everyone clocked out. I hauled boxes in 90-degree heat because no one else would. I covered the shifts nobody wanted, and I never said no when someone called in sick. On the schedule, I was listed as reliable. What that meant in real life was invisible. Then corporate announced a surprise audit. Cheryl panicked. She started repainting walls and reprinting fake customer surveys. She cut the hours of everyone over 30 and gave more shifts to the camera-ready girls she liked to flirt with the cashiers. I begged her not to cut mine. I needed those hours. My brother's medication had run out, and rent was 2 weeks overdue. "You want to keep your hours?" she said, smirking. "Try smiling more when the customers complain. Maybe lose the limp while you're at it. You look slow on camera." I swallowed hard. I'd messed up my knee years ago cleaning office stairs with no railing. That limp was with me for life. There wasn't a smile in the world that could hide it. Travis showed up the next day, fresh out of business school probably, with his neat haircut and khakis that hadn't seen a fryer in their lives. "Corporate trainee," he told us with a grin and a clipboard. He followed me for a whole shift. Watched how I swept, wiped, filled the drink machines. He pointed out my name tag was crooked, said my apron was off-brand standard. Asked why I sighed after every mop run. It was 100 degrees in the kitchen. The mop water was black sludge. I hadn't slept in 2 days. But I still answered him politely. At one point I was halfway through the lunch rush getting orders out, sweat dripping down my back, when Travis leaned in and told Cheryl, loud enough for everyone to hear, "We need someone younger up here. Fast food is visual now." That hit me right in the chest. I finished my shift. I didn't cry in the bathroom. I just sat in the stockroom after close and shook quietly, like my bones were tired of holding me up. The next morning, while I was bagging a breakfast order, I missed 6 phone calls. My brother had had a seizure. I rushed home to find the ambulance already gone. He was stable, the neighbor told me, but scared, alone, confused. I sat by his bed and held his hand for 2 hours before leaving for work again. I arrived late. Cheryl didn't ask why, just handed me a folded piece of paper. 3 strikes, she said. You're done. I didn't argue, didn't beg. I just handed over my visor and walked out the door into the heat. Outside, the sun bounced off the cracked concrete like it wanted to melt the soles off your shoes. My eyes scanned the parking lot without meaning to, and that's when I saw it. The rental car, the same white sedan Travis drove. Parked in the disabled spot, engine still running, windows sealed tight. He was probably inside on his phone, updating Cheryl's performance metrics. Probably sipping iced coffee while the rest of us dripped sweat in the kitchen. That did something to me. I didn't go home right away. I walked across the street to the payday loan office. The woman behind the glass had a crooked smile and pink nails. "How much you got left?" she asked. $83, I said. She printed a check and slid it under the glass. "You want to roll it forward?" "No," I said. "I'm done." I didn't go back to Burger King. I didn't explain. I just disappeared like grease down a drain. A week passed. Word got around that Cheryl had been demoted. Corporate found doctored time cards, fake surveys. A cashier who'd quit months earlier filed a report that Travis had made inappropriate remarks during training. He was reassigned to a new region. Quietly, of course, they never admit these things out loud. I heard about it from a friend who still worked there. She asked if I wanted to come back. Said things were different now. I told her thanks, but no. What I didn't tell her was I already had another job. Not glamorous, not something you brag about, but it paid cash, and I didn't answer to anyone with a clipboard. I cleaned the bathrooms at the city bus station 3 nights a week. Wore a janitor's jumpsuit and headphones. Hummed while I worked. It's funny. When you stop caring what people think, you start breathing easier. A young cashier at Burger King, one of the new hires, said she saw me once in the bus station bathroom. She was cleaning the sinks, had headphones on, didn't even look up, just humming like she didn't have a care in the world. They asked if I seemed upset, broken even. She shook her head. No, she looked like someone who finally stopped pretending. And she was right. I don't walk with pride, not exactly. But I walk lighter now. I still limp, sure. But I don't apologize for it anymore. I take care of my brother, pay our bills on time, and when I clean, I do it my way, with music in my ears and no manager watching over my shoulder. There's a quiet kind of strength in knowing your worth, even when no one else sees it. The world may not clap for you, may not even notice when you walk away, but sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just leave. Not with a bang, just with your head high and your heart intact. Don't wait for anyone to make it better. Sometimes you have to make your own way out.